Assalamualaikum and hello. Before we start our presentation, let me introduce my group member, which is Muhammad Aimannazirul bin Yusof, Khairil Amri bin Abdullah, and Nur Hanis Sa'adah binti Hamran. So, we will present about Chapter 2, Exercise Physiology, which is Cardiovascular System. What is cardiovascular system? The cardiovascular system is a complex part of the body that is essential for lifelong health. A weak cardiovascular system will expose to get disease and injury far easier than a well-treated body. Also called the circulatory system, also refers to the heart, blood vessel, and the blood. So, this is image of cardiovascular system.
Structure anatomy of the cardiovascular system, CV. The heart. It is located between lungs in the middle of chest, also slightly behind to the left of breastbone, who provides protection and the size approximately a closed fist. The function of heart is pumping blood and drive blood through the arteries to the tissues and organs of the body. It is surrounded by a twin-layered sac known as the pericardium, whose purpose is to prevent friction as the heart beats. There are three layers of the heart wall, which is the epicardium, the outer layer, the myocardium, the strong middle layer that forms most of the heart wall, and the endocardium, the inner layer. The right side of the heart is separated from the left by a solid wall known as the septum, which is a thin part dividing tissue or space in the organ, and it prevents the blood on the right side coming into contact with the blood on the left side. Actually, the heart can be thought of as two pumps, which is the two chambers on the right, the atrium and the right ventricle, and the two chambers on the left atrium and the left ventricle.
This is diagram of the heart anatomy.
The main part of heart. First one, coronary arteries. There are two coronary arteries, the left and the right, which is the blood vessel that supply oxygenated blood to the heart muscle. The second one, atria. These are the heart's upper chambers that obtain blood from either the body or the lungs that returns to the heart. The oxygenated blood is obtained from the superior and inferior vena cava in the right atrium, while oxygenated blood is received from the left and right pulmonary vein in the left atrium. The third, ventricles. This is a pumping chambers of the heart and that have thicker walls than the atria. The right ventricle pumps blood to the pulmonary circulation for the lungs, while the left ventricle pumps blood to the systematic circulation for the body, including the muscle. 4. Bicuspid mitral valve. One of the four valves in the heart, who located between the left atrium and the left ventricle, which is allows the blood to flow in one direction only, such as from the left atrium to the left ventricle. 5. Tricuspid valves. It is located between the right atrium and the right ventricle, which is allow blood to flow from the right atrium to the right ventricle and prevent blood from flowing backwards. The 6. Semilunar valves, aortic valve and pulmonary valve. The aortic valve is located between the left ventricle and the aorta, which is prevents flow from the aorta back into the left ventricle, while the pulmonary valve is located between the right ventricle and the pulmonary artery. The major blood vessel connected to the heart. The first one, aorta. The main artery of the body, it comes from the left ventricle who carries oxygenated blood included to all parts of the body except the lungs. The second one, superior vena cava. The oxygenated blood that is accepted by a vein at the upper body which is to empty into the right atrium of the heart. Third, inferior vena cava. The oxygenated blood that is accepted by a vein at the upper body which is to the empty into the right atrium of the heart. 4. Pulmonary vein. Oxygenated blood is transported from the lungs to the left atrium of the heart. 5. Pulmonary artery. It is the only artery that carries this oxygenated blood back to the lungs from the heart. Structure of blood vessels. The first one, arteries. The arteries bring blood away from the heart aspect of the pulmonary artery because they carry oxygenated blood. They can carry blood at high speeds under high pressures because they have thick muscular walls. The arteries will expand to accumulate this blood when the heart ejects blood into the large arteries. Basically, the arteries are deeply positioned except where they can be sensed at a pulse point within the body. The second one is arterioles. The arterioles have walls which are thinner than arteries. Distribution blood controlled by them with changing their diameter. Blood flow to the capillaries in response to differing demands for oxygen can be adjusted with this mechanism. Basically, arterioles responsible for controlling blood flow to the capillaries. The third one is capillaries. The capillaries unite arterioles and venules by connecting arteries and veins. The smallest of all the blood vessels, narrow and thin, consist of them. The muscle need oxygen and nutrients to produce energy, and the capillaries that surround muscle will ensure they get it. The capillaries of wall are just one only cell who allow oxygen, nutrients, and waste products to pass through. Inside the capillaries, blood pressure is lower than the arteries but taller than the veins. The 4. Veins. The vein is facilitates venous return and disoxygenated blood to the heart. The walls are relatively large diameter and thinner than arteries. When blood reaches the veins, it is under low pressure and flowing slowly. There are a few number of pocket valves in the veins that help to prevent any backflow when the muscles relax, because these muscle contractions are intermittent. Veins can be seen under the skin, especially close to the surface. The last one is venules. The venules that connect the capillaries to the veins and are the small vessels. The deoxygenated blood that taken from the capillaries by the venules by transported under low pressure to the veins, which in turn will lead back to the heart.
This is diagram of chelation. A is the single chelation and B is a double chelation.
Composition of blood. The first one is red blood cells. There are a few functions of red blood cells, but the main function is carry oxygen to all living tissue. Hemoglobin contains a protein which, when combined with oxygen, forms called oxyhemoglobin and gives blood its red color. The red blood cells are flattened, disc and round with an dented shape who give them a large surface area and allows them to flow easily within plasma. A drop of blood contains millions of red blood cells. Second one is plasma, the clear colored liquid which is the single largest component of human blood. Actually, plasma is transporting medium for a variety of substances vital to the human body and cell, also composed of 90% water. There are a variety of functions of plasma include fighting disease, clotting blood and so on. The third one is white blood cells. It is originated in the bone marrow and stored in blood. The white blood cells also have their own function, include protect the body from infections, identify and destroy pathogens such as bacteria or virus from the body and so on. The last one is platelets. The main function of platelet is clotting to prevent blood loss, and the platelets are disc-shaped cell fragments produced in the bone marrow.
Function of cardiovascular system. First, delivering oxygen and nutrient. The main function of the cardiovascular system is to supply nutrient and oxygen to the tissue body through of the bloodstream. For example, during exercise, the body will need more of this, so cardiovascular system respond to make sure that there is suitable supply to meet the increased demands. Actually, the performance will deteriorate and fatigue will occur in the muscle in the cardiovascular system can no longer meet these demands anymore. Second, removing waste products, carbon dioxide and lactate. The circulatory system brings waste product from the tissue to the liver and the kidneys and return carbon dioxide from the tissue to the lung, as well as providing nutrient and oxygen to all the tissue in the body. For example, the muscle fatigue will occur if don't remove the carbon dioxide and lactate that produced by the muscle during the exercise. 3. Fighting infection. The white blood are produced inside the bone marrow which that protect the body from infection. They can identify the substance that cause illness, then destroy them, while produce antibodies that will also destroy pathogen and produce an antitoxin which will neutralize the toxin that may be released by pathogen. They are stored in the bone marrow and transported around the body by the blood. 4. Thermoregulation. One of responsibilities of the cardiovascular system is to redistribution and distribution of heat within body to maintain thermal balance during exercise. This makes sure that do not overheat during exercise. The cardiovascular system uses the following ways to distributing and controlling heat around the body. Vasodilation of blood vessel near the skin. Vasodilation of blood vessel occurs in the part of the active muscle where gaseous exchange takes place when during exercise. It caused by the relation of the involuntary muscle fiber in the wall of the blood vessel, then cause an increase in the diameter of blood vessel. This decreases resistance to the flow of blood to the area supplied by the vessel, and it can increase the body temperature as heat loss is reduced as blood is moved away from the surface. Vasoconstriction of blood vessel near the skin. Blood vessel can also limit blood flow to tissue or temporarily shut down. A decrease in the diameter of blood vessel caused by this process known as vasoconstriction fission. It can decrease the body temperature as heat loss is reduced as blood is moved away from the surface. 5. Clotting blood. It is a process during the white blood cell from solid clot the damaged vessel required by covered damaged vessel wall with a fibrin clot. Platelet from a plaque at the site of the damage and the platelet plaque can be strengthened when the plasma component known as coagulation factor responds to form fibrin strands. This is may be the constant supply of blood through the cardiovascular system.
So, this diagram of clotting prevents excessive bleeding when a blood vessel is damaged.
Blood flow in cardiovascular system. The blood circulatory system, cardiovascular system, transport oxygen and nutrient to all cells in the body. It consists of the blood vessel running through the entire body and the heart. When the heart releases between two heartbeats, the blood circulation will start. The blood flow from both atria in the body, which in the upper two chamber of the heart, into the ventricle, the lower two chamber, then expand. The next phase is called the ejection period, that when both ventricle pump the blood into the large arteries. Beside the systemic circulation, the left ventricle pump oxygen-rich blood into the main artery, which is aorta. The blood travels from the main artery to smaller and larger arteries and into the capillary network. The blood that now low in oxygen is collected in veins and travels to the right atrium and into the right ventricle. And this is where pulmonary circulation starts. The right ventricle pumps low oxygen blood into the pulmonary artery. That branch off into smaller arteries and capillaries. A fine network around the pulmonary vesicle wrapped like air sacs in the end of the airways, formed by the capillaries, and this is where carbon dioxide released from the blood in the air inside the pulmonary vesicle, and then fresh oxygen enters the bloodstream, example when breathed out. Lastly, the next heartbeat starts a new cycle of systematic circulation.
And this is diagram of blood flow.
Two types of abnormal condition of heart. First, coronary artery disease. This disease, also known as coronary heart disease, it is the most type of heart disease. It develops when the arteries that supply blood to the heart become clogged with the plaque who have contained cholesterol and other substances, and this causes them to narrow and harden. When the plaque builds up in the arteries, it called atherosclerosis. This will result the blood supply reduced and the heart receive fewer nutrients and less oxygen. At the same time, the heart muscle will weaken and there is a risk of heart failure. Second, heart failure. Even this is a serious condition, the heart failure doesn't mean that the heart is no longer working, because it happens when the heart isn't pumping enough blood and the heart ability to pump is weaker than normal to meet the body needs. The heart failure only indicates in the heart is not squeezing as well as it should do. Actually, it usually doesn't occur suddenly but gradually worsen from time to time. The blood moves through the heart and body at a slower rate and pressure increase in the heart. Also, the heart cannot supply enough oxygen and blood to the body cell, which resulting in shortness of breath and fatigue.
Last but not least, in conclusion, the cardiovascular system seems so simple, but as we have seen, it's really a complex task. It's also an organ system that permits blood circulate, transport oxygen and nutrients to all the body cells, and to carry carbon dioxide and waste away from the body cell. The heart works like a pump, and it is an important part of the human body. The cardiovascular system is responsible for the body's blood flow, oxygen and nutrients throughout the body. That's all from us, and thank you.